The crowd in the square was suddenly quiet. All eyes were fixed on the tall royal guard, motionless as a statue. But the silence was cut through by a woman's ringing voice. "Oh, my God, girls, look at him. He's so serious. Let's make him smile." Out of the crowd came a girl in a tight top and miniskirt, phone in hand. She was live streaming, confident that she was about to make content that would blow up the net. She walked right up to the guardsman and ran her finger down his sleeve. The crowd gasped. No one touched them. She giggled. "Come on, pretty boy, smile at me just once." But the guardsman didn't move. He looked straight ahead as if he didn't hear her. "Why are you so boring?" Or, her voice took on a playful tone, "You just can't resist me?" She stepped even closer, almost right up close. The viewers in her chat room exploded with comments. The crowd held their breath. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. But no one expected how this guard would turn the situation around in a way that would make her regret every second of this live broadcast. The crowd in the square in front of Buckingham Palace was buzzing, cameras clicking, tourists talking, but I spotted her right away. She walked confidently, as if the whole scene belonged to her. Her high heels beat a rhythm on the stone sidewalk, her miniskirt and crop top screaming for attention, and her phone in her hands with the streamer on. "Okay, guys, ready? Let me show you how to have fun in London." Her voice rang out over the crowd as hundreds of viewers wrote fiery emojis in the comments and waited for the show. I stood not far away and watched as she flipped her hair over her shoulder and headed straight for the guardsman. He towered over her, motionless, in his red uniform and tall bear hat, with his back perfectly straightened. "Oh, my God, how serious he is." She sighed theatrically, guiding the camera up his figure. Maybe he's a robot? Or just afraid of pretty girls? The crowd chuckled, but tension hung in the air. We all knew the guardsmen had strict rules. Don't react, don't move, maintain impeccable discipline. But I had seen scenes like this before. Usually provocateurs got silence in response and walked away, snapped at. But not her. She took another step closer, almost right up close. "Come on, handsome, can't you at least blink? Or smile?" The guardsman didn't even flinch. The girl laughed and winked at the camera. "Okay, let's try it another way." She slowly raised her hand and touched his sleeve. The crowd gasped. I froze. Electricity hung in the air. Touching a king guard is no longer just a foolish prank. It's a violation. "Whoa, he's warm." She giggled, leaning closer. "I thought they were waxworks." But even now he didn't move. I saw his jaw clench a little harder, but he didn't make the slightest movement. What if I did like this? She grasped the edge of his uniform. At that moment, something changed. The guardsman took a single step forward. The heavy thud of his boot against the stone echoed throughout the square. The girl jerked back. Her eyes flashed with surprise and something else. Fear. The crowd held its breath. The cameras that had previously been filming for fun were now capturing something more. The guardsman leaned in just a millimeter and finally spoke. His voice was low, cold, as if chiseled from stone. "Stand back." Silence. I saw the girl swallow. She tried to grin, but her lips trembled slightly. What? "It's just a joke. Relax." I said, "Back off." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The crowd stared, unblinking. And that's when she realized it wasn't a game anymore. The crowd didn't move. The wind could be heard rustling the British flags over the gates of Buckingham Palace. The girl took an awkward step backward, but quickly straightened herself out. The camera in her hands was still recording. The comments continued to fly one by one. "Speech balloon." "Ah," he moved. "Is that legal?" "Speech balloon, damn." His voice, ID runaway. "Speech balloon taking a risk." But maybe he's really smiling inside. She caught onto those messages. Realized her audience was waiting for her to continue. Oh, he can talk after all? She quickly found herself pulling on a smug grin. "But can you stop me?" She took a step forward. The crowd began to get nervous. People interjected. Someone whispered, "Is she crazy?" Her voice grew quieter, but there was a new note of defiance in it. "Look, why do you have to be so serious? You're a man, aren't you? Standing there all important, strong." She licked her lips. "But maybe I can help you relax." A muffled murmur of disapproval drifted over the square. Tourists shook their heads. Parents took their children aside. But the girl didn't notice or pretended not to. She reached for the guardsman again, but this time higher, toward his chest. But before her fingers touched the uniform, the guardsman moved sharply. A second step. Hard, loud as a gunshot. The girl froze. Now he was towering over her like a monument to discipline. You've crossed the line. His voice wasn't loud, but there was something in it that sent shivers down her spine. Her smug mask was cracking. What? You don't realize where you are. His eyes, hidden beneath the shadow of his bear hat, fixed on her. You don't realize who's in front of you. The crowd watched with bated breath. You realize this is just a show, don't you? A pathetic laugh escaped her lips. Content, you know? It's not like anyone got hurt, but you will. She blinked. In the crowd, someone said quietly, "Oh, shit." The guardsman slowly raised his hand. He didn't touch her, but it was enough. His glove, white, spotlessly clean, came within centimeters of her face. He wasn't threatening. He was warning. One last chance. Now her smirk was completely gone. The crowd stared at her. The camera continued to record. She suddenly realized she was no longer in control. The crowd around her froze. Some were still filming. Some were turning away, as if not wanting to witness what was about to happen. The girl no longer looked confident. She swallowed, shifting slightly from foot to foot. But then, it was as if she woke up. She shook her head, pulling a fake smirk back onto her face. "Oh, come on." She threw her hand up, making a sharp gesture in front of his face, but not touching. "It's not like you can do anything to me. Come on, come on, come on. Do something." She laughed, but there was no longer the same insolence in that laugh. The guardsman did not move, but now his silence was working against her. The crowd no longer looked at her with interest. It was no longer admiration, but contempt. People were whispering, "This is too much. How can she not be ashamed? God, she's drowning herself." Suddenly, her phone started ringing. User Jack_89 sent £5. "You're really embarrassing yourself. Stop." Her eyes twitched to the screen. Hannah_London, "They don't respect you anymore. Just leave." Manny_X, "It's not funny. It's pathetic." She quickly scrolled through the chat. Where are the lights? Where are the likes? Where's the support? Her breath hitched. She looked around. There were dozens of faces, hundreds of eyes, all looking at her. And now she realized it was no longer about the joke. Shed lost. But before she could think of a way out of it, the guardsman tilted his head slowly, barely perceptibly. "Do you know what you just did?" Her throat went dry. It's just, you turned yourself into a joke." Camera clicks. Someone's cell phone captured the moment. It's over. It's over." The crowd froze. She opened her mouth, but no words escaped her lips. The guardsman stood motionless again, but now the silence between them was like a knife cutting through the air. What are you?" She tried to smile, but her voice treacherously shook. He didn't blink. He didn't move. Just said in a steady, cold voice, "Look around." She froze. Look at their faces. She didn't want to, but her eyes darted into the crowd. And she saw. Before, people laughed, commented, filmed for fun. Now it was judgment. Contempt. A couple of teenagers who used to cheer her on now looked away. Parents shook their heads reproachfully. The girl with the camera, standing at the fence, muttered, "It's really embarrassing." She swallowed convulsively. The guardsman tilted his head slightly. "They're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you." Something shivered in her chest. The crowd gasped. Someone said quietly, "Oh, that hurt." Her breath hitched. Just a second ago, she'd been in control. She was dictating the rules. This was her stream, her content, but had turned it all around with one sentence. The phone in her hand suddenly felt heavy, her fingers trembling. She glanced furtively at the screen, but there were no more lights. There was no excitement. Derek_89. LOL, he just destroyed you. Me_West. Get out before it gets worse. Crispy. Now you'll forever be the girl of shame outside the palace. Nausea rolled up to her throat. Her lips trembled, but she squeezed out a fake smile. It's just a game. It's just fun. Fun for who? The guardsman's voice was flat, without a shadow of anger. She didn't know what to answer. The kids in the crowd who now thought respect was a joke? To the people who came here to see history, not your play? She blushed. Why, you can't talk to me like that. But you could talk to me like that? Silence. The crowd gasped again. It was the final blow, and it hit right on target. The crowd fell silent. She stared at him with wide-open eyes. Her breath hitched. Her cheeks burned. Her heart pounded somewhere in her throat. Everything had turned upside down. She'd come here for content, for likes, applause. And now she was standing in front of hundreds of people, exposed, humiliated, crushed by one man who hadn't even moved. The guardsman froze again, as if nothing had happened. But his words continued to ring in her ears. They're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you. The crowd was no longer silent. Someone clapped. One, then another. The applause began to grow louder. But not for her. The guardsman. Damn, that was powerful, the man next to me muttered. That's discipline. The woman replied, snapping a picture on her phone. She clamped her lips together, clutching the phone in the palm of her hand. Chaos was going on in the comments of her stream. Oh, that was painful to watch. It's a fiasco, sis. Why did you even start that? Disgraceful. Just go away. That was it. That was the end of it. She couldn't take it anymore. Turning on her heels, she abruptly turned off the broadcast and headed away with quick steps. The crowd parted, letting her get away. Someone whispered. Someone filmed. But she wasn't smiling now. No waving at the camera. No jokes. Eyes down. Cheeks flaming. The only thought in my head was to get away as soon as possible. I looked at the guardsman. He was standing as before. Unmoving. Calm. As if nothing had happened. But everyone who saw it knew that much had happened. She came to humiliate him. But in the end, she left the square in shame.